Now, if I look tired, that's because I am. I just woke up from a nap, actually, under my desk. I had a little nap. Okay, that's connecting across to YouTube. Hopefully that won't take too long. Here it goes. Yep, done. Redirecting to YouTube, so that's cool. All right, so we're live on YouTube. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, great. Now, if I look tired, that's because I am. That's me. Very good. All right, now back to Zoom. Okay, let me just check the chat here. So who have we got? Who have we got? We've got Natalia, Gautam, Ying Hui Tan, Vinutha, Mandeep, Suvachaya, from Sydney, New Zealand, Australia, Melbourne, New Zealand, India, South Africa, Singapore, Perth, Sydney, Vienna, cool. Tasmania, India, Melbourne, Melbourne, India, Perth, but Dari, Indonesia, Melbourne, cool. All right, nice to see you all here. Okay, we may as well get started. If you've come to one of these before, 2 weeks ago, I gave the live mock test and it's the same content. So hopefully this is your first time here, so the content's fresh. If you have seen this content before, that's okay. You can do it again. It's good practice. I will be talking about methodology and stuff as we go along. So let's get started. I'm going to share my computer sound. And I'm going to make that one nice and big. I'm just going to switch out my mouse here. I'm going to use this one instead. Cool, let's get started. If this works. Nope, that's not going to work. Let's get started here. Okie dokie. So what are we going to do in this live class? In this live class, we're going to have a quick look at the E2 language platform. I'm going to talk to you about that and how it can help you prepare for your PTE test. Then we're going to get stuck into it. We're going to do speaking, writing, reading, listening, and then a little summary at the end. So let's get started. The first task of the entire PTE is read aloud. Okay, this is the first task of the speaking section. This is what you're going to see. Let me go back. I'm going to explain it to you, then I'm going to give it to you in a mock test format. You're going to see a paragraph of text. You need to read that text. Well, you get to read it twice. The first time you read it, it's like a rehearsal, right? You have 30 seconds to rehearse. Then the clock will tick down. Then you have another 30 seconds to read it aloud as clearly and as naturally as you possibly can, paying close attention to content. That is, you're going to read all of the words that are in front of you. You're not going to change any. You're not going to add any. You're not going to miss any. You're going to pay close attention to pronunciation. That is how clearly you are saying the words and all the sounds. And you're going to pay close attention to oral fluency. That is the way that you deliver the speech with nice pausing and connected speech and emphasis, etc. In other words, you want to read with as much meaning as possible. Cool. I'm going to disappear. Your 35 seconds starts now. This is your rehearsal. Okay, now read properly, please. Okay, cool. How do you feel that you went there? How was your performance? This is a pretty good task to start the PT with. It's pretty straightforward. It's just reading. You're not really actually speaking spontaneously or anything like that. Cool. I'm going to skip along. I'm going to make this one pretty efficient. We'll try and finish in about an hour and 45 minutes. Okay, the next task is called repeat sentence. What's going to happen is you're going to hear a single sentence. You're going to listen very carefully. The sentence will finish. Then when the microphone opens, you're going to say the exact words that the speaker said. And you're also going to copy the way that the sentence was delivered as well. So if there's rising intonation, I want you to also use rising intonation. If there's low intonation, low. If there's pausing, etc. Try and listen very carefully and replicate what was said. Of course, you don't need to replicate the accent that it was said in, but try your best to be as clear as possible. Okay, here we go. The sentence starts in 3, 2, 1.
There are a number of reasons why a result is not returned.
Cool, that's pretty straightforward.
There are a number of reasons why a result is not returned.
Hopefully you said this sentence here. There are a number of reasons why a result is not returned. How do you feel? Did you get that right? Good, nice. I'm going to hold off on questions. I'll do a little Q&A at the end of the speaking section where we'll talk about, you can ask questions about the speaking section. So please, you can pop your questions into the chat here, but we'll do them all at the end. The next task is called describe image. And this is the first task where you're not reading something or you're not repeating something, but you're actually speaking spontaneously. What's going to happen is you're going to see an image on the screen, probably most likely some sort of graph or visual data. You're going to have 25 seconds to analyze that graph or that visual data, 25 seconds to look at and to understand it. Then when the 25 seconds is over, you'll then have 40 seconds to describe it, okay? With a nice little introduction, with a body and a little conclusion, okay? You want to think about that. The E2 language structure that we teach you is very valuable for this one. It's like a framework that you can use, okay? So if you don't know that, I do recommend that you watch our methodology lessons. Okay, away you go. You have 25 seconds to analyze starting now. And 40 seconds to describe the image. Cool. All right. How did you... this one's tough, and some of the images that you're going to see on test day will be very challenging. The key to this one is to the key to this one is to maintain control. Maintain control of your oral fluency. That is, you don't want to speed up too fast. You don't want to stammer and go too slowly. You want to maintain a nice moderate tempo. Your focus really should be on the delivery of your speech. Getting details correct about the graph is secondary, okay? The primary thing that you need to focus on is making sure that you're speaking fluently, not necessarily quickly, but fluently without too many ums and ahs and stopping, etc. Okay, it's pretty challenging though. That does require practice, that one. The next task is called speaking retell lecture. Okay, what's going to happen is you're going to hear part of a lecture. And the lecture will just sort of start anywhere. What you need to do is you need to have a pen and paper for this one. So please, if you don't have a pen and paper with you now, quickly run and grab one while I do the explanation. Because during this particular task and a few other tasks that are coming up, you need to take notes. And on test day, you actually get given a notebook and a pen so you can take notes, okay? So what's going to happen is you're going to hear part of a lecture that will go for between 60 and 90 seconds, and you're going to pay very careful attention to that lecture. You're going to be listening very carefully because you want to take as much of it in as possible. While you're listening, you're going to be noting down keywords, okay? So keywords that help you to understand what was said and will also aid you in your memory, because after the lecture has finished, you'll have 10 seconds to prepare, just 10 seconds, which isn't very long at all. Then you'll have 40 seconds to retell the lecture, what was said in your own words, using your memory and your notes, okay? So I'm going to disappear. Obviously this, there's also an image here which indicates that this is probably going to be a lecture about autonomous vehicles or something like that, self-driving cars. Okay, get ready to listen, take notes. Your time starts now.
Now, we know that the success of driverless cars is dependent upon the science of artificial intelligence and visual recognition. But what we also know is that visual recognition by machines has some way to go. There are sophisticated considerations which we as humans employ without a second thought, such as separating an object from its background, knowing when an object ends, or recognizing an object partially obscured. In terms of autonomous vehicles, this begs the question, what happens when a driverless car approaches a stop sign that has been sprayed with graffiti? Does the car stop? Now, Philip, you have similar doubts about robots, especially regarding how they can perceive objects.
Well, these systems have gotten quite a bit better at recognizing objects, and in certain standardized tests, they can classify images about as well as humans do. But when it comes to shape, there are major deficits. To give a simple example, imagine you have a glass horse ornament on your desk. As humans, we know it's a horse from the shape. A computer, however, will say it's a hook or a corkscrew. It doesn't recognize horse just from the shape.
And this clearly has profound implications when it comes to driverless vehicles.
Indeed.
Okay, you have 10 seconds to prepare.
Now, we know that...
Sorry, you have 10 seconds to prepare. Sorry, I've got to get my timers right here. So gather your thoughts, take a deep breath, and retell in 3, 2, 1. Cool. How did you go? That one's quite a complicated task, right? Now, you don't need to speak for the full 40 seconds. You can stop after 30 seconds. That's fine. But you really want to have captured the main idea of that lecture or that interview, and also kept control of your oral fluency, focusing really on the clarity of your speech, okay? Remember, this microphone is recording everything. So if you're going, anything like that, it's going to register that, not as language. It's okay. It's only listening for words. Cool. All right. We've got one more. I'll skip that. We've got one more question in from the speaking section to do next. If you do require some feedback on your speaking, maybe you don't know what went wrong last time you took the PT, or maybe you just want to have a little bit of expert guidance. If you are a member of e2language.com, you can sign up for our speaking feedback, where you actually submit retell lecture, describe image, read aloud through the system. Our expert teachers will mark it. Then they'll send it back to you with a report card and feedback on your performance, showing you what you need to do next. Cool. All right, let's do the final speaking task. It's called Answer Short Question. It's very straightforward. You're just going to hear a single question, and then you need to repeat in a word or a couple of words, okay? Here we go.
What do you call two lines that run side by side but never meet?
And you should know the answer to that immediately. And you should say it as soon as that microphone opens, you say the word parallel. Let me just show you that. What do you call two lines that run side by side but never meet? Parallel. That's a good example of the type of questions in Answer Short Question that you'll get. What it's testing you on is your knowledge of and your ability to produce sort of uncommon words, uncommon, quite precise technical words. Actually, I wouldn't say technical. They're not technical to a discipline like biology or physics or anything like that. They're from general vocabulary, but they're just less common words, right? A word like parallel is a very good example. Okay, we have actually just done the speaking section. That's it. There are 5 tasks. Of course, on test day, you'll get more than just one activity per task. You get multiple. So for read aloud, I believe you get 5 passages. Retail lecture, I think you get 3 or 4. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think it takes about 25, 30 minutes to finish the speaking section. Okay, I'm just going to go through the questions here on in the Zoom, in the E2 Language Live class. Okay, so Saritha's asking about read aloud. And Saritha said, okay, there were 35 seconds given to us to read that paragraph. I completed my reading in about 25 seconds. Is that too fast? No, I think that's about right. That's about how fast I read it when I'm reading at a moderate tempo. So that what you should do after your read aloud, you finish, you click this next button, okay? You don't want to wait there and attract noise into your microphone. Parul has asked a question about repeat sentence. What happens if I miss a word, like an article, like the, for example? Do I get 0? No, it's partial scoring. So let's say there are 10 words in the repeat sentence and you miss one. Well, you'll get 90%, okay? So but try to get them all, obviously. Mansi, in describe image, can we avoid describing the horizontal and vertical axes? That's right, because when we're looking at those graphs, it gets complicated, doesn't it? Because it starts to get into numbers and details and etc. You can avoid them. You can avoid details. In describe image, if you're just going to talk about this image for say 32 seconds, you just want to talk about the main trends, you know, the highest, the lowest, the decrease, the increase, stuff like that. If you do happen to have a quick mind and you can say, you know, there were 500,000 people and then it dropped down to 230,000 people by September, something like that, that's fine. But good point. I think avoiding the complexity of the graph is a good idea. There's no need to get into complexity. Chelsea's asked, do we need to make a conclusion before we stop talking? So this is for describe image and retail lecture. It's very good if you can signal to the computer, to the algorithm, that you are concluding by saying something like overall or in conclusion, and then just a single sentence. So for the describe image we saw with the podcast, you can say something like overall. You can see that there are far more podcasts available. I forget what was on, but something like that. It just needs to be pretty general. Hamid, for answer short question, we just say the answer. We don't repeat the question, right? Right. You just say a single word answer, parallel or parallel lines, something like that. That's fine. So Dhananjay's got some issues with note taking. Yes, note taking is critical for retail lecture. It's also really critical for the listening tasks, multiple choice, multiple answers, highlight correct summary, and summarize spoken text. That's a significant number of tasks that note-taking is important for. So if you are struggling with note-taking, I recommend just watching some lectures on YouTube or somewhere on e2language.com. There is actually a lesson on how to take notes. But just while you're listening to the radio, whatever, just start taking notes, key words, key concepts, key ideas, and then stop the YouTube video. Talk about what you just heard using your notes. Seriously important practice. Because what it needs to do, note-taking needs to reinforce what you're hearing. Okay, it's not going to distract you. Note-taking should not distract you from what you're listening to. It should be able to help you to comprehend it. and understand it. Okay, so Luchamara is asking about content for retail lecture. Yes, you need to make sure that you're speaking on topic. So make sure those keywords that you write down are from the lecture. Anshdeep, what happens if we pronounce words incorrectly? Well, that'll affect your speaking score. Can I just show you something actually? Something important, I think. Just bear with me while I bring this up. Okay, and let me share my screen again. If you're having trouble with pronunciation or any of the fundamental skills of English, okay, test prep is one thing. It's really good to go to e2language.com and do the test prep course and to learn how to structure your essay, structure your summarized spoken text, learn the strategies and the methodologies, etc., and do test practice, get feedback. But if you're struggling with, you know, fundamental skills of English, your vocabulary is not strong enough, your pronunciation isn't precise enough, your grammar is not accurate, you should check out this website called E2 School. It's currently 100% free. There's a pronunciation course, which you can use for free. There's a grammar course, which you can sign up for free. This is built by us, by the way. I'm one of the teachers in the grammar course. There's a beginner English course, which is obviously not for you. But there's also this level 4 course, which is really very good for building vocabulary around certain themes which you might encounter in your PTE test. Cool. All right, let me just, before I move on, Afifa, is it okay to click next after read aloud before the timer has finished? Yes, it is. Jay, do you have sample answers on E2 language for the describe image and retail lecture? Yes, we do. Lots of sample answers for every question. Xiqing Ong says, if there are 2 speakers in retail lecture, how do we notify that it's a conversation? Yeah, okay, so you have to say, how would you do this actually? Yeah, you could just call them speaker 1 and speaker 2. I think that would be fine. Or the first speaker and the second speaker. That's how you would name them. Cool. All right, I'm going to skip past there. If you have any more questions, detailed questions, feel free to send an email to hello@e2language.com. Let's talk about writing. We've now finished the speaking section. We've moved on to writing. The first task is called summarize written text. I'm going to talk you through it. Basically, what happens is you have a passage of text that can be up to 300 words, so quite long, about a specific topic. And it can be quite a technical topic, you know, like biology or astronomy or something like that. And you've got 10 minutes to complete this task. What you need to do is you need to read that passage very carefully, because what you need to do then is to summarize that passage into one sentence. You want to write a single sentence summary, a 1-sentence summary that captures this. Now, there's a specific type of sentence that you need to write. That is a complex sentence. That means it's going to have a main idea, and it's going to have another clause with some sub-ideas. So when you're structuring that sentence, you want to write a sentence that has a which or a that. That's probably the best way to structure these types of sentences, so you capture the main idea and the sub-ideas. But ultimately what you're doing is you're reading this. What a good practice would be to read it very carefully so you fully understand it, cover it, and then write your sentence. You can borrow specific words from the text. You don't want to borrow phrases, or certainly don't rewrite your sentence from sections of this. No, it has to be written in your own words. Cool. Anyway, that should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to give you, you get 10 minutes to do this task. I'm just going to give you 5 minutes to do this task and to write your sentence to get a feel for what you need to do. So this time is turning yellow. It will be fully yellow when your time is up. Okie dokie. How did you go there? This task, of course, contributes points not just to your writing score, but to your reading score as well, because in order to write that single sentence, you need to have read and understood that passage there. So it's quite a clever task in that it is assessing 2 skills at once. Cool. Here's an example sentence. There are many different ways that you can write your sentence, of course, but here is one good example. It says, after much research, Dr. Tom Morty recommends that students sleep for at least 8 hours before an exam in order to increase their ability to concentrate and remember, which are critical factors for academic and exam success. So you can see this is a single sentence, and it's got a few different little parts to it. So after much research, then we've got a sort of subject, verb, object. Then we've got this, which are critical factors for exam success, this subordinate clause here, this clause that hangs off. So it's quite a rich, detailed sentence, but it is grammatical. It has captured the main idea of the text and the important sub-ideas. The vocabulary is precise. The spelling is good. So that would be awarded a top score, a 90 for this particular task. Okay. This one, of course, is the big writing task, though. It's the essay. Every good exam has an essay. We're not actually going to write an essay in this mock test. I'm just going to talk to you about this particular essay. So the type of essay that you have to write is an argumentative essay, or what's also called a persuasive essay, which is very different to IELTS. In IELTS, I think there are 6 or 7 or 8 different essay types: problem, solution, cause and effect, advantages, disadvantages, opinion, arguments, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it's much more complex in terms of the type of essay. This one, straightforward, argumentative. Okay, so what you're given there, you're going to be given some sort of prompt, a controversial social issue, and that social issue is going to have 2 sides to the argument. It's going to be something that you agree with or you disagree with. Okay, and what you have to do in this essay is you need to pick a side and say, I disagree with this. I'm going to write why I disagree with this, or I agree with it. Here's why I agree with it. Okay, so that's how it's argumentative. Critically, to get a high score in this particular task, you need to have under your belt or in your mind, you need to have a structure. Okay, structure is critical for success here. And what I mean by a structure is you need to know how to construct your paragraphs, your introductory paragraph, your body paragraphs, and your conclusion paragraph. Because sitting behind this essay that you're looking at here, which is a top scoring essay, is a structure, like a skeleton, if you like. And what we're doing is we're simply writing sentences according to that structure, okay? It's critical that you watch the methodology lesson on e2language.com about how to structure the essay. And once you've learned how to structure this essay, you can actually answer any question prompt. There's nothing to memorize per se. You're not memorizing phrases, or it's not a template. What you're ultimately doing is working out, okay, this is how I introduce a topic. Here's how I extrapolate or expand a topic in a paragraph. And here's how I link it back in the conclusion. And by having that structure, as long as you have the grammar and the vocabulary, as long as you're writing on topic, well, there's a few things to consider, but it will certainly help you out. I won't go into too much detail there. Let's have a look at how you're scored for the essay. So the scoring is on content. That is that you're writing on topic. Okay, so let's say you have to write an essay about decreasing tourism or something like that. And if you wrote on topic, you read that question prompt and you use keywords from it and you didn't deviate or stray from the prompt, you would get a top score of 3. Development, structure, and coherence is how you, in fact, structure up your essay overall and at the paragraph level as well. You get a top score of 2 there. Length just means you write between 200 and 300 words. So you can write 201 words or you can write 299 words. That's fine. You do not get a higher score for more words. General linguistic range means that you have vocabulary and grammar to express yourself well. There you go, express yourself well. or express yourself precisely. Grammar usage and mechanics means that your grammar is accurate. Vocabulary range means that you're using a variety of words. You're not repeating words too much, and you're also precise with your vocabulary. And spelling is spelling. So that's how you're scored on your essay, okay? Cool, all right, they are the two main tasks for writing. There are other tasks that contribute points to writing in the listening section and in the reading section as well, but they're the two main writing tasks. So let me answer some questions here. Edgar says, I'm a slow typer. What should I do? Well, yeah, you only get 20 minutes to write that essay of 200 words. And you do want to spend a bit of time planning your essay. You don't want to just start writing your essay. You want to think first. You want to get out your pen and you're going to write, are you going to agree or disagree? That's the first thing you need to work out. Okay, I agree with it. Why do I agree with it? I need 2 reasons why, because that's going to be my body paragraph 1 and my body paragraph 2. So I sketch out a very simple little plan. Then I begin writing using the E2 language structure. So that leaves me about, say, 18 minutes to then write, but I want to leave 2 minutes at the end to check and proofread. So I've got about 16 minutes to write 200 words. So if you're unsure of your typing speed, jump onto a word processor, Microsoft Word, type, have a go and practice. Okay, so Christian, with summarized written text, if the sentence has fewer than 30 words, will that get you a lower score? No, what the scoring parameters work like this. You get a top score for length for summarized written text if you write more than 5 words and fewer than 75 words. So you can write 6 words or 74 words, anywhere in between, and you'll get a top score for length. However, you will not get a top score for content if you just write 5 words, because you're not capturing the main ideas and the sub-ideas. The optimum length of the sentence that you write should be about 30 to 35 words, because that way you can capture the main idea and the sub-ideas, but you can also keep your sentence grammatical. If you extend beyond sort of 35, 40 words, it becomes extremely difficult to keep your sentence grammatical and not, in fact, write 2 sentences. Maria Catalina says, does it matter if I invent or create facts to support my argument in the essay? No, but keep your facts generic. And what I mean by that is the way that the algorithm was created was that they had tens of thousands of submissions for essays come through on particular topics, right? And so what they do is they train the algorithm using these submissions, and they rate those essays. And so the algorithm knows what a good essay is and what a bad essay is. The algorithm knows if it's on topic or off topic, etc. So when you're saying, for example, a recent study from Bangalore University with Dr. Ramesh, blah, blah, blah. If you're using words like Bangalore and Ramesh in your essay, the algorithm's not going to quite know what that is, okay? So you want to be a little bit more generic with that. You want to say something like, a recent survey from a top university suggests that those words the algorithm knows. So, but yes, in short, you can create your own facts. What a wonderful world. Create your own facts. Mandeep, do we have to take one side or can we argue both points? Mandeep, it's much easier. Remember, you have like 16 minutes to write this essay. Choose a side within 10 seconds and just argue for it, okay? You don't want to be nuanced and balanced because you're going to run out of time. Just choose a side and argue for it. Pradeep says, I make lots of spelling mistakes. Is there anything I can do to improve? Yes. If you're going to type a word and you're not sure how to spell it, stop, think of a synonym that's easier to spell and use that word instead. For example, instead of using the word gigantic or enormous, which you might spell incorrectly, use the word large or big. I won't talk about punctuation in summarized written text because it's too complicated. Eleanor, Do I have to count the words myself, or does the computer count them? The computer counts them. The computer will tell you how many words you've typed, which is very helpful. Okay, Jay, if my paragraph is composed of 3 sentences and not 4, does it affect my essay score profoundly? No. No, if you wrote a paragraph of 1 or 2 sentences, that would be probably problematic. Try to write 4-sentence paragraphs. It's just a good thing. Topic sentence, support sentence, evidence or example, and a concluding sentence. That is the structure of a body paragraph. You can certainly write 3-sentence intros and conclusions. Last question on write essay is, what if I don't have any ideas about the topic? It probably won't happen. The topic, the prompts, the question prompts that you get on test day will be very straightforward. They're not going to contain specialist knowledge or ask you anything abstract. Okay, it's going to ask you questions about your everyday life, tourism, travel, or cigarette smoking, or traffic congestion in cities, typical sorts of essay questions. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. There's a technical question about using a semicolon in summarized written text. I don't recommend it. I think just write a straightforward sentence with a which or a that type of clause. Cool. If you need specialist or what can I say, expert deep help with your writing or your speaking, you can book expert tutorials on e2language.com with our teachers. You can focus on any of the tasks. They're 45 minutes one-on-one, and the teacher will provide you with practice material. The teacher will listen in carefully if you're speaking, or look closely at your writing and give you lots of expert feedback. So these are very powerful. By the way, you can use our voucher code Get Started and to receive a $10 off the bronze, silver, or gold packages. Okay, let's talk about the reading section. Reading and writing fill in the blanks. This is the first task of the reading section. It contributes points to both your reading and writing score. This is what it looks like. There will be a paragraph with drop-down lists with 4 answer options. It's going to test you on 2 different things. The most common thing it's testing you on is word choice. There will be 4 possible answers. Only one will be precise. The second thing it might test you on is grammar. There might be 4 verb tenses. Which one of the verb tenses is actually correct in the context? It's all about reading from the context here. And it's about, and also word choice. Cool. Let's have a go at this one here. You have 2 minutes. Okay, how did you go there? Let's have a look at the answers. So the first one probably got a lot of you. This is a real trick. Recent clinical studies have shown. So this verb tense here, this present perfect verb tense, actually hangs off this noun here. Studies have shown. Olive oil, although singular, is not connected to this one here. So it's the recent studies have shown. Okay, so that was the first one there. That's just a technical sort of writing one that they get you on. These studies indicate is correct. They play a role in reducing. Olive oil plays a role in reducing damage. Reducing damage would be the correct one according to context. And chronic disease development. Reduce, that's a key word there, reduce chronic disease development. So 1, 2, 3, 4. How did you go out of 4? What was your score? Pop it into the chat. Nice. Christian's got it. Alvarez and Mandeep got 3. Not bad. Maria got 4. A few people got 2, 3. Nice work. That was a bit of a tricky one. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. This one is this one can be overwhelming, I think is the way to describe this one. But if you stay calm and if you have a strategy and an approach to this one, I think it's really quite achievable. Okay, but you do want to, I'll show you what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of text, right? And you think, oh my God, how am I supposed to do that in 2 minutes? And you sort of freak out and you don't know where to look and what to do, etc. Okay, here's what to do. You want to firstly just look here. You want to do a quick speed read of this text. Don't do it now. Wait until the timer starts. You want to do a quick speed read of the text. Just get a scan read. Quickly get an idea of what this is about. Okay, give yourself some confidence because you can understand this. Okay, I understand what this is about. Cool. Next thing what you want to do is you want to go to the answer option here. You've got 2 problems that you have to solve. First problem is, where in the text here is this answer option? Okay, and you're going to use keywords to find out that somewhere in here this is said. That's the first problem, is identifying where in the passage that answer option is. Second problem, and this is the important one, does that answer option say the same thing as the text but just in different words? Or does it contradict what the text says? Or is it just not mentioned at all? If it says the same thing as the text, but in different words, then you will choose it. If it contradicts what the text says, that is, it's wrong, you won't choose it. And if it's just not mentioned in the text, you also won't choose it. So let's keep those 2 problems in mind. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Okay, how confident are you that you got both of those answer options correct? Give me a percentage. Out of 100%, how confident are you that you got the answers right? 80% confidence, 90%, oh, 90, oh, lots of people, oh, someone's 100%, 70%, 85%. Okay, nice, all right. 95%, says Maria. All right, here we go. Let's go through the answer options here. So this answer option says people who repair computers are in a unique position to make more sales. Is this passage just talking to computer repairmen? The answer is no. Especially, it says here, this is a real clue. So if you're a computer repairman or whatever, okay, so the answer is no. It's too absolutist. It's not right. Okay, so we're going to skip that one. There are misconceptions about why people should post content on social media. You might think of it as a losing business. You're probably thinking da, 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 da. But the truth is this, something that a lot of you aren't understanding. There are misconceptions about why people should post on. Yes, I'm definitely happy with B there. Okay, it is saying that, but in different words. C, you should create marketing materials for social media to make more immediate sales. Well, immediate sales. Well, it says in the passage, you'll get the sales in the end. It'll be better for you in the long run. You're in it for the long run. You're not just doing it to bait your customer into a quick sale. Contradictory information here. I'm not going to choose C. Facebook videos should be no longer than 30 seconds. Okay, this is again an absolutist statement. So it's saying that you should make maximum 30-second Facebook videos. It says in the passage, put out 30-second videos on Facebook. Does it say anything about no longer than or maximum time? No, it doesn't say that. That's a misreading. So I'm not going to choose that one. Therefore, I'm definitely going to choose this one because there will always be more than one answer option. We've eliminated 3, so therefore we're left with 2. By educating people for free on social media, you eventually achieve greater success. And that was largely what this passage was about. So the correct answers are B and, what is it? A, B, C, D, E. B and E, B and E, B and E. Cool, nice. Okay, just bear in mind that this particular task has negative marking. So let's imagine that you chose B. Cool. And you chose C. Not cool, because you get 1 minus 1 equals 0. Let's imagine that you chose B and E. So you got 2, and this one here. So you got 2 minus 1 equals 1. That's okay. So you can actually just choose 1 if you like. If you're just certain that B is correct, but you're unsure of the rest, you can just choose 1 and get 1 point. That's also fine, or 50% of the mark. The key point here is don't select it unless you're sure. Unless you're 90% sure. Okay, the next task is called reading reorder paragraph. This is what it looks like. It's straightforward. You need to put this paragraph into the correct sequence. Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do this. Well, no, 90 seconds. Okay, this one, haha, this one, haha, I made this one and it's got a little trick in it. Okay, the first sentence is really critical. If you get the first sentence right, you've done 80% of the hard work because all the rest of the sentences hang off that first sentence, okay? So you need to get that topic first sentence correct. Let's look at it. I don't know if you chose this one, but hopefully you did. First sentence is, what exactly happens when you blow on a soap film to make a bubble? Behind this simple question about a favorite childhood activity is some real science. In a series of experiments replicating bubble blowing, NYU's Applied Math Lab has discovered 2 ways in which bubbles can be made. The first is by pushing wind through a circular wand with a soap film, which causes a bubble to grow. The other way is by gently pushing wind against an already inflated film in order to drive its further growth. Okay, how did you go there? Did you get it right? Hurrah, says Shuchita. Nice. And Krishi's pretty happy, and so is Hamid. And Gerline's happy, and Shuchi's happy. Nice, cool. All right, somebody said blah, but that's all right. Whoops, and somebody's got a sad face. That's the nature of the beast. That's what happens. Cool. Somebody asked before what the voucher code was. Get started. So if you type in get started, if you choose the bronze, silver, or gold package on e2language.com, you'll get $10 US off. Okay, let's talk about reading fill in the blanks. This one's straightforward. I really won't explain it much to you. Just drag and drop one of the words into the gap. There will be a couple of words left over. There's no timer here. I'm going to give you 60 seconds starting from now. Five seconds left. Do you think 60 seconds was enough? Maybe that was a bit cruel. These ones, the text is usually, I think the text is 110 words max. It's usually just like 1 or 2 sentences. What it's testing you for is collocations. So this first word here, parting. So many ways of parting with their dead loved ones. This is such a terrible text to choose during the time that we're in, but you part with a loved one. Okay, I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase before, but it's a phrase. It's a natural sounding phrase. I had to part with my loved one. Okay, so you part. That's the verb that goes with this particular noun phrase here. This next one isn't so much a collocation, but it's reading from context because it's caves, trees, and mountaintops. This one is a collocation, ritually cannibalized. No, it's very common, but it's the only adverb that actually works with this past participle here. Ritually, you can't say terribly cannibalized. It's just not right. And these are all practices. So this one is it's not such a good example of what it's usually testing you for. What this task usually tests you for is collocation, natural sounding phrases, okay? Taking responsibility, parting with a loved one. What was the one I thought of the other day? I can't remember. I can never think of these when I have to think of them. I can use them very naturally in my speech, but yes, I find it hard to think of them. Okay. This one is a little bit different to multiple choice, multiple answers. This one, anyway, you have a go. I'll explain it after you've had a go. I'll give you 2 minutes to answer this one. This is a really tricky question, by the way. Read carefully. Okay. Looks like most of you have done pretty well here. Okay, so let me explain this to you. I'm going to start with D, paper transcripts. Okay, here it says academic transcripts. Here it's talking about electronic transcripts. We're interested in paper transcripts, okay? Paper transcripts by post. It may take several days for your order to be processed. From the date of your payment, please allow up to 10 working days. Order in person. Paper transcripts from 1990 to present can also be issued immediately at the front counter of the student center. The cost is $40. Okay, so you can have them posted to you or you can buy them immediately for $40. Another person can collect your fast turnaround transcript, but they must be authorized by you and present photo ID. So paper transcripts will likely take more than a week to be delivered. Well, it says, from the date of your payment, please allow up to 10 working days. Paper transcripts will likely take more than a week. Does it say that? No. Let's try C. Paper transcripts require you to complete a student authorization form. Well, not necessarily. It says another person can collect them, but they must be authorized and present photo ID. It doesn't actually say anything about a student authorization form. What about B? Paper transcripts are only available for study periods prior to 1990. Well, it says here, paper transcripts from 1990 to present, not prior to 1990. Let's try A. Paper transcripts can be paid for and collected on the same day. Paper transcripts can also be issued immediately at the front counter for $40. The answer is A. Who got A? It's one of those sort of, it's one of those questions. It's like, you know what I mean? You just have to, when you're doing these things, it's mind bending, but you just have to sort of just keep paying attention. Ultimately, what you're doing is reading this. This is what's important, understanding that. Once you've understood that and you go, all right, I understand how this paper transcript thing works. Somebody said it's baffling. I agree, it is baffling. Somebody's crying. Dhananjay's crying. Sorry about that, Dhananjay. Once you've understood the passage, the text, fully understood it, comprehended it, then you turn to the answer options and go, somebody's asking why not D? And let me explain again. Likely, it will likely take more than a week to be delivered. It just says, please allow up to 10 working days. That's very different from saying it will likely take more than a week. It just says, please allow up to 10 working days. Nothing about likelihood there. So be careful of little words like likely or probably or stuff like that. Cool. All right. Any questions on the reading section? Because we have just finished the reading section. J, does fill in the blanks have a negative score? No. The only task in the reading section with negative marking is multiple choice, choose multiple answers. Any other questions about reading? I think reading's pretty straightforward. Nope. Great. Okay, let's keep pushing on. So we're into the listening section, and this is the first task. It's called Summarize Spoken Text. It's very similar to retell lecture in the speaking section, except instead of retelling or summarizing verbally, what we're going to do is summarize in written form. But before we do that, I'm going to tell you about how wonderful our mock test is. And if you haven't yet taken our mini mock test, you should. I think you can buy the Express Plus package. It's $59 US. It's pretty amazing because it comes with, I think it comes with 25 live classes, all the practice materials, methodology lessons, etc., and a mock test. And this mock test replicates the real test. You get feedback from our expert teachers on all the speaking submissions: read aloud, repeat sentence, describe image, retell lecture, write essay, summarize written text, and summarize spoken text. So you get heaps of feedback. You'll be able to determine if you're ready for the PTE or not, or if you've taken the PTE before, it will actually allow you to identify where you went wrong and what you need to work on. So keep this in mind. It's a really fantastic tool for preparation. And of course, it's a lot cheaper than the real exam. Okay, this is Summarize Spoken Text, the first task of the listening section. You're going to need a pen and paper because you're going to hear a lecture or part of a lecture. You're going to take notes as you listen. Then you're going to turn your notes into a summary. You're going to write a summary of between 50 and 70 words, okay? Usually you get 10 minutes to complete this task, including the time of the lecture, but I'm going to give you just 5 minutes to do this. So let's rocket through it. Here we go. Ready to listen and take notes? Off you go.
Recently, we've seen the rise of voluntourism. That is, tourism which is linked to doing good for the local community of a travel destination. Now, this field tends to attract student volunteers, perhaps best described as amateur humanitarian workers. They join in projects like building, painting, teaching, or sometimes they just make friends with children perceived to be in need. All seems very nice at first glance, but the voluntourism industry is coming under fire lately. Why? Well, a number of reasons. Perhaps the main one is the lack of skills these volunteers sometimes have. They may be there with the best of intentions to alleviate poverty or offer support to vulnerable people, but what can often happen instead is that they end up sort of contributing to patronising or unhelpful ideas about the places they visit. And when children are involved, the inevitable departure of the volunteerist can have a devastating emotional impact. Now, it's not necessarily the volunteer's fault. The very design of these programs is often to blame. But it begs the question, is there a place for voluntourism? Well, I believe yes, but long-term commitment is key. Doctors, engineers, computer scientists, and particular types of educators have important skills and could make more enduring contributions. Recently, we've seen the rise of voluntourism. That is, tourism which is linked
Okie dokie. How was that? Again, you're writing a summary of between 50 and 70 words of what the speaker was talking about. If you're using the E2 language structure, which I saw a lot of you are, that was looking good. Again, structures will really help you out. I don't know about you, I just like structure in general. Life's sort of chaotic enough. It's nice to have structures for things, I think. Cool. All right. Here is a good example. The speaker was discussing volunteer tourism. She mentioned how volunteer tourism mainly attracts students, and she described how they participate in projects like building and teaching. She talked about the lack of skills among these volunteers and the problems this can cause. She discussed the impact on children when a volunteer leaves. And finally, she suggested that volunteer tourism programs would be better with longer-term commitment from skilled professionals. So this is on topic. It's grammatical. It's well-structured. It's precise, it has precise vocabulary, and the spelling is correct. So this would get a top score. Right, we're going to do listening multiple choice, choose multiple answers. And this one can be hard. What happens is I think you get about 7 seconds before the audio starts playing. 1, 2, 3, not very long. What I want you to do, I've noticed that the success rates, if you follow this practice, are much higher. Get out your pen and your paper. You're going to ignore the answer options, and you're going to pay close attention to what's being said. While you're listening, you're going to be taking notes to reinforce your understanding of what's being said. Then when the lecture finishes, you're going to look up at the answer options, and you're going to go, no, no, yes, yes, no, for example, something like that. So let's take notes and listen. Ready?
The World Solar Challenge is a race for solar-powered cars covering about 3,000 kilometres from Darwin to Adelaide. The cars competing in the Solar Challenge use solar panels, a bit like you might see on the roofs of houses, and they work by converting sunlight into electricity. The panels are made up of wafer-thin layers of silicon. When sunlight hits a panel, electrons in the silicon move to create an electric current. On a typical solar-powered car, the solar panel can generate about 1,320 watts. That's about the amount of electricity some hairdryers use. So to be able to drive at normal speed on a highway, the cars have to be as small and as light as possible. And then there's the weather. When it's overcast, the cars are reliant on batteries which last less than 4 hours. Installing more batteries would make the car too heavy. All of this science comes at a price too. The cars in the World Solar Challenge cost a lot to build. $150,000 at the cheap end, rising up to a staggering $2 million for the most expensive. But even though we aren't likely to see these solar cars being sold at dealerships, these teams aren't wasting their time and effort. Some of their innovations have already made a difference. For example, special tyres, which were designed to enhance fuel efficiency in solar car racing, are now stocked in shops. While it looks like a lot of fun, there is some serious science, and that's worth celebrating.
Nice. Remember, you can just select one if you just want to be careful. That's fine. Or if you're quite sure of 2 answers, you can select 2. Could possibly be 3. Cool. All right. That should be enough time. Cool. All right. So the answers are, whoa, where are the answers? The answers are B. These cars can be surprisingly expensive, and E, they can run on as little power as some small household appliances. She specifically mentioned a hairdryer. So if you got B and E, congratulations. Let's push on. Next one is listening fill in the blanks. This one's straightforward. As you listen, you need to write down the missing words on your notebook. or you can actually type the words directly into the gaps on test day and use the tab key to move between the gaps. That's also fine. Ready?
Many of our native animal species are either threatened or endangered. This is mostly due to human activities such as logging, oil and gas drilling, overgrazing, and urban development, all of which result in habitat destruction and eventually the collapse of local ecosystems. Scientists tell us the best way to protect endangered species is to protect the places where they live. Wildlife must have places to find food, to shelter, and to raise their young. By protecting habitats, entire communities of animals and plants can be maintained. In fact, entire ecosystems can be preserved.
Okay, how did you go there? Let's have a look at the answers. So hopefully you got activities, plural, IES. You need to spell it correctly. It needs to be grammatical. You need to get the exact word, in other words, to get the point. Destruction, shelter, habitats, and preserved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 answer options there. How did you go? Nice. People are pretty happy. Okay, maybe you missed 1 or 2. That's okay as well. Cool. All right, we are burning through this. This is good. Listening, multiple choice, choose a single answer. This one you don't necessarily need to take notes, but what's critical is in the 7-second preparation time before the audio starts, you need to, you need to read this very carefully. It's going to ask you to listen for something, okay? What I mean by that is, it will say something like, what does the author think about apples? I don't know. Or, what is the main difference between apples and oranges? Or, how big was the apple found on whatever, something like that. What I'm trying to say is it's going to ask you to listen for something. So that you're going to be very focused in and you're going to be listening for something. And if you keep that question prompt in your mind while you listen, you should be in a pretty good shape. So let's try that. So what is the main difference between the two phones? Ready? What is the main difference between the two phones?
The latest iPhone and Samsung Galaxy are just incremental upgrades on their predecessors, though that still makes them some of the best phones available. In features and price, they're certainly two of the top flagship phones of this year. As far as design, both phones look much like their predecessors. The Samsung Galaxy's display are one style, while the iPhone is a round-edged rectangle. The Galaxy screen makes it slightly larger than the 5.8-inch displayed iPhone, if screen size matters to you. Alright, there's really only one comparison here, that camera. The Galaxy opted to stretch its 3 cameras and flash into a rectangular wedge, which looks a bit too angular in an 80s sort of way, but it's arguably more attractive than the camera on the iPhone. That setup looks all kinds of lopsided, and will arguably split phone fans down a love or hate line. But if anyone's winning this beauty contest, it's the Galaxy, by a healthy margin.
Okay.
The latest iPhone.
Okay, so let's look at the question prompt again. What is the main difference between the two phones? So the first part of this was blah, 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 blah. It wasn't, there wasn't really a comparison happening. But then in that final part of his talk, he said, all right, there's really only one comparison here. What is the main difference between the two phones? That camera. The Galaxy opted to stretch its 3 cameras and flash into a rectangular wedge, which looks a bit too angular in an 80s sort of way, but it's arguably more attractive than the camera on the iPhone. That setup looks all kind of lopsided and will arguably split phone fans down a love or hate line. So if we look at the answers options here, what is the answer? What is the main difference between the two phones? It's definitely about the cameras. So it's between A and E, but hopefully you selected A. The look of the cameras is correct there. That can be hard. I think what you need to really, what you need to do here is trust yourself and relax. Once you put that question prompt into your mind, okay, what is the main difference between these two cameras? What is the main difference between the two cameras? You're just listening carefully, paying attention, listening carefully, and then all of a sudden his language changes and he says, oh yeah, okay. So there's one real comparison between these two phones, and it's the look of that camera. And you're like, all right, got it. Yeah. And Natalia said it was my first choice. Here's a little interesting piece of psychological research, which is the first choice is often, in multiple choice questions, is often the correct one. It's when you second guess yourself that you'll get it wrong. So just keep that in mind. That was multiple choice single answer, so one correct answer option. I've talked about how wonderful our tutorials are, should you want to take a tutorial. The voucher code is get started, one word, capital letters, get started, gives you $10 off bronze, silver, or gold. Cool. Let's do highlight correct summary. You'll need your pen and paper for this one. It is ultimately a multiple choice question, except the answer options are very long and you cannot read and listen at the same time. Therefore, you need to listen, take notes, then match your notes to the answer, one correct answer option that accurately summarizes what was said. I'm sorry, these tasks are a bit boring, but let's just keep doing it, okay? Here we go. Ready to take notes? Listen and take notes.
When we think about the opposite of work, we many times think it's leisure. And we say, I need some leisure time, and so forth. But the fact is that leisure is a very busy thing. We go to play golf and tennis, and we meet people, and we're going for lunch, and we're running late for the movies. It's a very crowded thing that we do. The opposite of work is actually idleness. But very few of us know what to do with idleness. When we look at the way that we distribute our lives in general, we begin to realize that in the periods in which we have a lot of money, we have very little time. And then when we finally have time, we have neither money nor health.
Okay. Keep reading. You have a bit of time here. Don't rush yourself. Okay, let's have a look at the answers here. So the correct or the best summary for that short lecture was, despite what many of us believe, idleness, not leisure, is the opposite of work. However, today we don't know how to be idle. We are too busy with work or packed leisure schedules. Ironically, we are likely to have enough time when we don't have money or health. How interesting to talk about that during coronavirus, when all of a sudden we seem to have a lot of time. Time seems to, I don't know about you, but my experience of time recently has changed. It's like I'm stuck in this sort of eternity where every day is the same. And because there's no events happening in my life, like social events or whatever, it's just like perpetual, I don't know. It's strange. It's very different. I can't wait to socialize again. Anyway, don't worry about that. That'll happen. Cool. I think we have three tasks left. This one's called Select Missing Word. It's a multiple choice type question. It's quite interesting. What happens is you'll hear a shorter lecture, will go for about 30 seconds. The final word or the final phrase of that lecture will be missing. And so you need to anticipate what the speaker was going to say based on what he was saying or said. Okay, let's see if you can do this. Now, here's an interesting thing. Just looking at these ones here, let me give you a little quiz. Looking at A, B, C, and D here, which one do you think is wrong? Pop it into the chat. Which one do you think is wrong? Excellent. This is a great little teaching moment for me, because never do that. Never look at answer options and be biased before you hear the lecture or read the text. You don't know. You have no idea which one is wrong there. You haven't heard the audio, right? So please never do that in a multiple choice. I know I asked you to do it, but you were thinking it already. I bet you were. Don't do that. Ready? Listen, be completely unbiased and listen carefully, then choose the correct answer.
If you don't know what HTML5 is, let me help you understand. It's a programming language, but it's a profound one, because for the first time, we're able to construct a web page where the entire thing can have embedded interactivity, can have video, audio, whatever it is that we want. We no longer need flash boxes. And this represents a huge, huge change, because it's essentially opened up a new canvas. And it hasn't just opened it up for the New York Times or large corporations. It's opened it up for everybody on WordPress. It's opened it up for musicians and home entrepreneurs, because suddenly the ability to produce a differentiated, highly compelling, value-added, maybe even monetizable product
You should know the answer pretty much immediately, because only one of those will complete that sentence correctly according to the context. It could complete it grammatically, but that's not what you're looking at. You're looking for the meaning to be completed correctly. Yes, Pierre, a good question. Pierre's just asked, will we see the timer on this one? And the answer is yes. You'll see the timer ticking down, and so you know when it's getting close to the beep sound. That's a very good point. Okay, so the answer,
if you don't know,
the answer there is this one. This is what that's why I asked you which one of these answer options do you hate before you see it. Everyone hates A for some reason, because it looks like it's ungrammatical for some reason, but it's not. It's completely grammatical, but a lot of people don't choose it because they don't like the look of it, which I find just very interesting. The answer is A. Let's have a little listen as to why it's A.
if you don't know, because it's essentially opened up a new canvas, and it hasn't just opened it up for the New York Times or large corporations. It's opened it up for everybody on WordPress. It's opened it up for musicians and home entrepreneurs, because suddenly the ability to produce a differentiated, highly compelling, value-added, maybe even monetizable product.
The ability to produce blah, blah, blah is there. I agree. It's kind of a strange way, but that is actually the best completion of that sentence. Cool.
If you don't know,
oops. All right. Okay, this is the second last task of the entire PT and the second last task of the listening section, called highlight incorrect words. What's going to happen here is you're going to hear another lecture or interview or something like that. And here is the transcript. Okay, so what he says or she says will be written here, word for word, except a few of the words here are going to be incorrect. They'll be different. You need to click on the words that differ from what the speaker said. Should mention, on test day, you need to use your mouse. Obviously, you can't do that during this live class. So I want you to put your finger on the table and just tap it when you see the incorrect word. Imagine you're clicking on it as you're going along. But on test day, you really do need to take your mouse to the front and start moving it as you're going along. Click, 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 etc. There will usually be about between 3 and 5 words you need to click on.
The first recorded use of wearable glasses occurred in Italy during the 13th century. The lenses were glass blown and set into wooden or leather frames. They were held in front of the face or perched on the nose. Initially used by monks, the glasses grew in popularity, and the technology improved over the next 2 centuries. Artwork remains the best evidence that these glasses existed, as early Renaissance paintings sometimes depict scholars using either handheld frames or perch-style glasses.
Okay, hopefully.
The first recorded use.
Here we go. You should have clicked on feather because he said leather, place because he said perched, quality because he said popularity, people because he said scholars, I believe. So there were 4 words that you should have clicked on while you were listening there. Okay, cool. All right. If you're watching this on YouTube, hello, people on YouTube who never seem to leave YouTube, who should leave YouTube because they should go across to E2 Language, sign up for free, join our live classes, etc. If you're watching this on YouTube, do click that subscribe button. Come across to E2 Language and sign up for free. We do give some free stuff away, some practice questions, some live classes, etc. Cool. Last one. Here we go. Right from dictation. What's going to happen is you're going to hear a single sentence. You're going to listen very carefully. You're going to understand it all, get all of the words, memorize it, and then you're going to quickly type it out correctly and accurately. Cool. Here we go. Here is the single sentence in 3, 2, 1.
We solve problems through innovation and hard work.
Okay, a few little questions have popped up about right from dictation. Someone said if we get a number like the number 10, you know, there are 10 days in a whatever. Do we write 10 or TEN? Both answers would be considered correct. So all possible combinations and permutations of answers will be correct. We solve problems through innovation and hard work is the correct answer here. We solve problems, solved, not solved. She didn't say solved. So that's tiny would change the meaning there. Solve problems through innovation and hard work is correct. Cool. Enough of that. Enough of that. That's done. All right. Let's answer some questions about the listening section. Nice work, everybody. That's cool. Okay, so someone said, "What is hard work? 1 word or 2 words?" Oof, that's a really good question, actually. I think again they would accept hard work being 1 word or 2 words. They would have an answer key that would have different possible combinations there. Luchimara says, in multiple choice, multiple answers, can I still get 65 if I only choose 1 answer? I believe so. I believe so. Donna J says, what about the voucher code Better Together 15? I don't know if it's still valid. You can try it. Better Together 15, 1 word. Try that. You might get $15 off. I'm not sure. I have to check if it's still valid. Kellyanne says, I'm subscribed on E2 Language, but I'm watching on YouTube now to not be on this platform. Do I rather? I see. So Kellyanne, what you need to do is you register, you go to e2language.com. There's all the live classes. in the calendar, you register for it. It should give you an email after you register, you'll receive an email from Zoom and there'll be a link, and then you can come into the Zoom live class here and you don't have to watch it on YouTube anymore. So somebody said that the Better Together 15 is not valid anymore. Yep. So you can use Get Started is it's $10 off. Cool. Nice. A few little questions are popping up. Is PT Academic and PT General Study the same? No, they're different tests. They're some of the activities are similar, but they're used for different things. Obviously, PT Academic's used for migration purposes. I think PT General is now used in the UK for some sort of visa, but I'm not exactly sure. Maria, does punctuation matter in the write from dictation task? No, it doesn't actually. Well, just bear in mind though, if you're using a contraction like don't or can't or shouldn't, for example, you should be using the apostrophe, but you are not penalized if you don't use a capital letter or full stop. It doesn't test for punctuation. Dhananjay, how can I get more mock tests for PT as now only one is available at E2 Language? Join our live mock tests that happen every night of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I believe. The teachers go through a live mock test with you, which is great practice. And there's 12 weeks worth of live classes on some of our packages. Cool. Yep, so in write from dictation, all possible combinations will be considered correct. So if the word is can't and you write cannot, it'll still be considered right. Jay, can you please share the proposed examples of describe image and retail lecture? That's all in the website. If you go to the practice questions, you'll see the sample answers for that. More tips on retail lecture. It's all in the methodology lessons on e2language.com. Is there any limited practice? Is there a limited practice on the package? If you mean duration, I think they're pretty generous. It's like 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months. Depending on, in fact, I think that's 6 months or 12 months now. So the duration of the package is quite long. Jay, is there negative marking and highlight incorrect words? Yes, there is. So be careful. If you do accidentally click one, unclick it, you can do that. Cool. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for coming along. I hope it was helpful. I hope you're safe and well. Yeah, I hope you're still preparing for your future and getting ready to pass your English test. Do check out E2 School if you want to build your fundamental English language skills, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, etc. And also check out E2 Language if you just want test prep. Cool. Anyway, see you guys. Nice to teach you. See you soon.